There are people who need constant proof that you love them, who create situations to see if you'll stay, who pick fights to check if you'll come back, who push you away just to see if you'll chase them. From the outside, they look insecure, exhausting, maybe even manipulative. Their partner gets tired. Friends say, "Just leave." Everyone tells them they're being unreasonable. But if you think they're testing because they're dramatic or attention-seeking, you're completely missing the psychological wound that makes love feel conditional, temporary, and always one mistake away from disappearing. Because here's what most people don't understand. Testing isn't about the present, it's about the past. It's about every time love was taken away, every time affection had conditions, every time someone left without warning. And when you understand where the testing comes from, it stops looking like manipulation and starts looking like someone trying to survive love with a nervous system that learned love doesn't last. So today, we're going deep. We're going to break down the real psychology behind why some people test their partner's love constantly. And I'm going to show you that they're not testing you, they're testing whether they're safe. Let's go deeper. Let's start with the most common type, the abandonment survivors. These are people who experienced abandonment in their past, and I don't just mean physical abandonment, though that counts too. I'm talking about emotional abandonment. Parents who were there physically but gone emotionally. Partners who left without warning. Friends who disappeared when things got hard. Here's what happens neurologically. When someone experiences abandonment, especially in childhood, their brain creates what psychologists call an insecure attachment style. Specifically, anxious attachment. And here's how it works. Their nervous system is constantly scanning for signs that you're about to leave. It's not conscious, it's automatic. Their brain is running a background program that says, "People leave, watch for the signs." So they test, not because they want to, but because their nervous system needs reassurance that you're still there, that you're still committed, that this time is different. The tests look like this. They pick a fight over something small, not because they care about the dish you left out, but because they need to see if you'll stay when things get difficult. They pull away emotionally and watch to see if you'll pursue them, because if you don't, it confirms what they already feared. You don't really care. They create small crises to see if you'll show up, because showing up is how they measure love. They say, "Maybe we should break up," not because they want to, but because they need to hear you say, "No, I want to stay."
And here's the tragedy. Every test is exhausting for their partner, but every test they create is also exhausting for them. They don't want to be this way. They hate that they need so much reassurance. They see their partner getting tired and it confirms their worst fear. "See, I'm too much. They're going to leave." It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Their fear of abandonment creates behaviors that push people away, which confirms that people leave, which makes them test more, which pushes people further. The reassurance works, but only temporarily. You pass the test today, you prove your love, they feel safe. But tomorrow or next week, the anxiety returns, and they need proof again. Because to their nervous system, love is never permanent. It's always provisional, always one test away from being revoked. This isn't manipulation. This is trauma. This is a person whose brain learned that love is unstable, and no amount of current evidence can override that early programming without serious therapeutic work. Now let's talk about the second type, the conditionally loved. These are people who learned that love wasn't freely given. It had to be earned. They had to be smart enough, attractive enough, successful enough, well-behaved enough to deserve affection. Maybe they had parents who only showed love when they achieved something. Maybe they had a past partner who withdrew affection as punishment. Maybe they learned that love was a reward for good behavior, not a constant they could count on. And here's what this creates. A person who believes love is transactional, that it must be maintained through performance, that the moment they stop being enough, love will be withdrawn. So they test constantly, but their tests look different than the abandonment survivors. They might be perfect partners for months, doing everything right, and then suddenly stop to see if you'll still love them when they're not performing. They might deliberately mess up to see if you'll leave when they're flawed. They might tell you their worst qualities, their biggest failures, their deepest shames, and watch your face carefully to see if the love leaves your eyes. They might stop being helpful, stop being accommodating, stop being easy just to test if you love them for who they are or only for what they provide. And underneath all of this is the question they're really asking: do you love me or do you love what I do for you? If I stop performing, will you stay? Because they never learned that they're inherently lovable. They learned that love is something you earn and maintain through effort. So they're constantly checking if they've done enough to keep it. Imagine living like that. Imagine believing that love is a job you might get fired from, that every day you wake up and have to prove you're still worthy.
That you can never just rest in being loved, because being loved isn't about being, it's about doing. This is why they test, not because they doubt you, because they doubt themselves. Every test is asking, am I still enough? And here's the painful part. No matter how many times you say yes, no matter how many tests they pass in their own eyes, it's never enough. Because the problem isn't your love, the problem is they don't believe they deserve it. Now we get to the third type, and this one's different. The trust betrayed. These are people who trusted completely once, who believed in someone fully, who gave their whole heart, and then that person destroyed it. Maybe they were cheated on. Maybe they were lied to for months or years. Maybe someone they loved looked them in the eye and promised forever, then left. Maybe their trust was weaponized against them. And here's what betrayal does to the brain. It doesn't just hurt, it rewires how you perceive safety in relationships. Before betrayal, they might have been trusting, open, secure. After betrayal, their brain creates a new operating system. Trust is dangerous. People lie. Love can be fake. You need to verify everything. So they test. But their tests are specific. They're looking for evidence of deception. They check your phone, not because they don't trust you specifically, but because their brain can no longer trust anyone without verification. They ask detailed questions about where you were, who you were with, what time you left, what time you got home. They're cross-referencing your stories, looking for inconsistencies, because inconsistencies once hid lies. They test your reactions. They might mention an attractive person and watch your face. They might create hypothetical scenarios about cheating and study how you respond. They might even create situations where you could lie and see if you do, because they need to know if you're capable of deception. And here's what people don't understand. This isn't about you. This is about their trauma. You could be the most honest, loyal, trustworthy person on earth. It doesn't matter, because their nervous system isn't responding to you. It's responding to what happened before you. Their brain is saying, the last person seemed trustworthy too. The last person said all the right things too. The last person looked you in the eye and lied too. You cannot trust appearances. You cannot trust words. You must verify. You must test. You must stay vigilant. This is exhausting for everyone. The person testing is tired of being suspicious. They hate who they've become.
They remember when they could trust easily, and they miss that version of themselves. But they can't go back, because now they know. They know that trust can be misplaced, that love can lie, that people can look you in the eye and betray you. So they test, not because they want to, but because their brain won't let them stop. It's a trauma response. It's hypervigilance. It's PTSD in relationship form. And here's the tragic irony. Their testing often creates the very outcome they fear. Their constant suspicion makes their partner feel distrusted, accused, exhausted. Eventually, their partner leaves, not because they were going to betray them, but because being constantly tested killed the relationship. And when their partner leaves, it confirms what they already believed. See? Everyone leaves. Everyone betrays. I was right to test. They don't see that their testing caused the leaving. They only see that once again, love didn't last. Once again, someone left. And the cycle continues. And now we get to the fourth type, and this is the deepest one, the self-worth wounded. These are people who don't believe they're lovable, not because someone left, not because love was conditional, not because they were betrayed, but because somewhere deep in their core, they decided they're not enough. Maybe they were bullied, maybe they were rejected repeatedly, maybe they internalized criticism, maybe they just never learned to see their own value. And when you believe you're fundamentally unlovable, every relationship becomes confusing. Because here's this person saying they love you, but you know you're unlovable, so something doesn't add up. And their brain solves this confusion in one of two ways. Either they think they don't really love me, they just don't know the real me yet, or they think they love me now, but once they really see me, they'll leave. Both conclusions lead to the same behavior, testing. But their tests are different. They're not testing if you love them. They're testing when you realize you shouldn't. They reveal their worst qualities not to be vulnerable, but to speed up the inevitable. Let's get this over with. Let me show you why I'm unlovable so you can leave now instead of later. They push you away, not because they want space, but because they're trying to control the abandonment they believe is coming. If I push you away, at least I'm in control of the leaving. They create problems, start fights, become difficult because they believe they don't deserve easy love. They believe relationships with them should be hard because they're hard to love. And here's what this looks like day to day. You tell them you love them, they say, why? Not flirtatiously, genuinely. They need to understand what you see because they can't see it themselves. You compliment them, they deflect, reject it, or assume you're just being nice. You choose them again and again, and they keep waiting for the day you won't.
They keep waiting for you to wake up and realize you made a mistake. Every test they create is asking the same question. You still here? You haven't figured out I'm not worth it yet? How long until you do? And no matter how many times you stay, no matter how many tests you pass, it doesn't fix the core wound. Because the problem isn't your love. The problem is they don't believe they deserve to receive it. You could love them perfectly and it wouldn't matter, because they'd still believe that perfect love is wasted on someone like them. This is the saddest type, because the love is there, the proof is there, the consistency is there, but they can't see it, they can't feel it, they can't believe it. They're starving, surrounded by food because their brain tells them they don't deserve to eat. And until they heal that core wound, until they learn to see themselves as worthy of love, no amount of external validation will ever be enough. So, here's what we've learned. Type 1, the abandonment survivors, test because they're terrified you'll leave like everyone else did. Type 2, the conditionally loved, test because they believe love must be earned and they're checking if they've done enough. Type 3, the trust betrayed, test because their brain can no longer accept trust without verification. Type 4, the self-worth wounded, test because they don't believe they're lovable and they're waiting for you to agree. And here's what they all have in common. They're not testing you, they're protecting themselves. Every test is a defense mechanism. Every test is a trauma response. Every test is their wounded self trying to prevent the pain from happening again. They're not trying to manipulate you. They're trying to survive loving you with a nervous system that learned love is dangerous. Now, does this mean their partners should just accept constant testing? No, absolutely not. Understanding where something comes from doesn't mean you have to tolerate it forever. Compassion doesn't require martyrdom. If you're with someone who tests constantly, you can have empathy for their wound while also setting boundaries about what you will and won't accept. You can say, I understand you're scared. I understand you've been hurt before, and I'm here, I'm staying, but I can't keep proving that every single day.
I need you to work on this with a therapist because I can't heal this wound for you. Because here's the truth. You can't love someone into believing they're lovable. You can't be consistent enough to override their abandonment trauma. You can't be trustworthy enough to undo their betrayal wound. These are internal wounds that require internal work. So what's the path forward? If you're the person who tests constantly, the first step is recognizing the pattern, and you're already doing that by watching this video. The second step is understanding which type you are. Which wound is driving your testing? Abandonment, conditional love, betrayal, unworthiness? The third step is getting professional help. Therapy, specifically attachment-based therapy or trauma therapy, can rewire these patterns. It's not quick, it's not easy, but it works. You can learn to recognize when your testing impulse is a trauma response, not a real relationship problem. You can learn to self-soothe when the anxiety of "they're going to leave" kicks in instead of creating a test. You can learn to sit with the discomfort of being loved without needing constant proof. You can learn to trust yourself, which is actually what you're looking for when you test others. And if you're the partner of someone who tests constantly, here's what you need to know. Their testing isn't about you, it's about their past. You can't fix it by just proving your love more. That's not how trauma works. What you can do is encourage them to get help, support them in therapy, be patient with the process, but also maintain your boundaries. You can love someone and still refuse to be tested daily. That's not unloving, that's healthy. The goal isn't for them to never need reassurance. Humans need reassurance, that's normal. The goal is for the reassurance to actually work, for them to be able to receive it, believe it, and let it settle, for the anxiety to quiet instead of just pausing until tomorrow. That's what healing looks like. Not the elimination of all doubt, but the ability to trust love when it's given. So let me bring this home. If you test your partner's love constantly, you're not broken, you're not bad, you're not unlovable. You're someone whose nervous system learned that love is conditional, temporary, or dangerous, and you're trying to protect yourself the only way your brain knows how. But you deserve to rest. You deserve to receive love without constantly checking if it's still there. You deserve to feel safe in someone's affection, and that future is possible. With work, with therapy, with time, with the right support, you can learn to let love in. You can learn to trust it. You can learn to believe you deserve it. The testing will decrease, the anxiety will quiet, the wound will heal. Not overnight, not easily, but it happens. I've seen it happen. And to everyone watching this, whether you're the tester or the tested, I hope this helped you understand what's really happening beneath the surface. Because once you understand that testing isn't manipulation, it's protection. Once you see the wound behind the behavior, everything shifts. You can respond with compassion instead of frustration. You can set boundaries without shame. You can heal instead of just coping. That's what this channel is about, going deeper, understanding the psychology beneath the behavior, seeing each other and ourselves with more clarity and compassion. So drop your country or city in the comments. Let's see where you're watching from. Let's build this global community of people who want to go deeper. And if this resonated with you, if you see yourself or someone you love in this, hit subscribe. We go deeper every day. And remember, you're not too much, you're not broken. You're just carrying a wound that hasn't healed yet. And healing is possible. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next one.